Chapter 85, First Day of School. The morning light was pale, but still harsh enough to sting tired eyes. Gojo was partially dressed in his uniform, only donning the white undershirt and blue pants. He'd been sitting on the edge of his bed, stealing glances at Geto getting ready in the bathroom. He was tying his hair back, letting his long bangs fall from the bun and into his face. He felt Gojo's eyes on him and turned around while winding an elastic around his hair. Gojo gave him a lopsided grin. Geto blushed and turned back to the bathroom mirror. They'd been quiet all morning, not from tension, but because they were groggy and sleep-deprived. Anything left unsaid, unresolved, would have to wait until later. Geto stepped out of the bathroom, fully dressed in his uniform. He glanced at Gojo and tipped his head. "Satoru, where's your shirt? We're going to be late." Geto looked around the room. When he turned back to Gojo, he was already slipping his arms through the sleeves, but stood, slouching, leaving the shirt open and hanging loosely from his frame. Geto stood in front of him and straightened out Gojo's collar and started to button his shirt for him. "Why are you stalling? I'm the one who wants to stay here and hide in bed." "Suguru," Gojo said. Geto didn't meet his eyes and continued fastening the buttons. "You realize you haven't leaked any cursed energy the past couple of days?" Gojo asked. Geto looked up, skeptical. "You're sure it's not just you suppressing it again?" "Nope, that's all you," Gojo assured him. Geto dropped his eyes again and finished the last button. He smoothed out the fabric, accidentally brushing his hand across the front of Gojo's pants. "Whoa, Suguru, you're the one trying to make us late," Gojo laughed softly as he started tucking his shirt in. Geto rolled his eyes. He went to grab their backpacks while Gojo fastened his jacket and grabbed his sunglasses. They stood at the door. Gojo saw the worried look come over Geto's face when he put his hand on the doorknob. He put his hand on Geto's arm. "I'm right here, Suguru." Geto nodded and swung the door open. They walked to school, side by side, Gojo keeping step with Geto instead of walking ahead like he usually did. They were cutting it close to the bell. The hallways were already empty of students. When Gojo slid open the sliding door to the classroom, the morning chatter died away. Chairs stilled. The hum of cursed energy was the only sound. Gojo stepped in first, shoulders relaxed, hands shoved in his pockets. Geto followed, gaze lowered. When he crossed the threshold, he felt eyes bore into him and the whisper started. "Is that... he's really here? I thought he..." Yaga's voice cut through the noise. "All right, that's enough." Yaga's arms were crossed as he looked around the room, waiting until the murmurs died down. "Everyone, you know Gojo. You also know Geto." Yaga leaned his large frame against his desk. "They're here because they've earned the right to be. That's all you need to know." Gojo shuffled towards their usual spot, the same desk he'd claimed at the beginning of the year. Geto followed, his posture straight, but his eyes still downcast. He could feel the weight of the room pressing down on him. Gojo plopped himself noisily into his chair and leaned back, stretching an arm over the back of Geto's seat. Geto sat down quietly, wanting to disappear. He leaned back enough where he could feel Gojo's arm. Gojo brushed his thumb against his shoulder, as if to signal, "I'm right here." Yaga began his class, his tone steady, but the words blurred in Geto's ears. He didn't care about keeping up with the lesson. He only wanted to survive the first day. The morning rolled by slowly. Even if all they were doing was sitting in class, listening, pretending to take notes, being around so many people drained Geto. Nanami spotted him in one of their classes. They nodded at each other in greeting, but Geto ignored everybody else. He didn't know where Shoko was. Physical training was their last class before lunch break. Gojo and Geto were stretching out on the mats, waiting for their turn to begin. The class was practicing hand-to-hand combat. Yaga had paired them against each other, the last match for the morning. Their PT uniforms were dark blue t-shirts and black shorts. Geto forgot about the bruises on his arms until he started to warm up. He glanced down. The marks were fading, but they were still visible. Geto still had the patch of scars on his arm from the talisman being torn off. He ran his fingers over the raised skin. Last pair, Yaga called out from the edge of the mats. Gojo, Geto, let's see if the strongest and the strategist remember how to pace themselves. A ripple of anticipation ran through the gym. Geto groaned inwardly. Did Yaga have to announce them like that? He approached Gojo, who was already in the middle of the mat, stretching his arms behind his head. They bowed to each other. Begin, Yaga signaled. They moved fast. Geto made the first move, going in with a low sweep. Gojo parried, their movements familiar and comfortable. They'd been training together so long, it looked like a dance. Gojo feinted left and grabbed Geto's arm. Geto broke the grip and launched a counter-strike. The sound of their forearms making contact echoed around the gym. Gojo lunged and hooked behind Geto's knee. He pivoted and the momentum brought Geto down. It was a clean, efficient, textbook move. Geto hit the mat, flat on his back. The sound of his body hitting the floor, the thud of being taken down, it's the same sound from his dream when the man wearing Gojo's face attacked him. For a split second, the gym dropped away. Geto's eyes unfocused, pupils dilating. His cursed energy pulsed. Gojo felt the spike of fear immediately, and he cupped his hand firmly on Geto's shoulder and lowered his voice. Suguru, you're here. You're okay. Look at me. Geto couldn't answer. The students watching started to turn to each other, whispering, knowing something was off. Yaga lowered his clipboard and furrowed his brow. He's fine, Sensei. I just knocked the wind out of him, Gojo called out, a little too loudly, too brightly. He just needs a second. Break, all of you. Yaga looked around the gym. The students drifted away while Gojo helped Geto sit up. Yaga approached the pair. If he's good, then you're done for the day. Be ready for a full day tomorrow. Yes, Sensei. Gojo helped Geto to his feet, steadying him. They walked to the locker room to grab their things. Geto was quiet and pale as they walked back to the dorm. He collapsed on his bed and let Gojo lay next to him. They were both subdued and silent. Geto, the nightmare still clinging to him, and Gojo, realizing how deep the dream had affected Geto. Gojo gently unwound the hair tie from Geto's hair and combed his fingers through. It soothed Geto, and he relaxed and closed his eyes. The rhythm of Gojo's fingers pulling through his hair started to lull him to sleep. Gojo planted a gentle kiss to Geto's forehead. I wish I could reach into your nightmares and destroy the man who hurt you.